What's up, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of Game Time here on the Game Time Sports Channel. So much to get into here in NFL Week 16. I am the Outlaw John Rocha, joined as always by a man I was praising for a while, but who's taken some hard punches to the face. Dallas Cowboys' own Winston A. Marshall. How are you, Winston?
I mean, look, man, I'm not even mad when necessarily we'll talk about the game. It's fine. Like I'm genuinely okay. There's one play in particular that really for me was like, well, there it goes. And sure there were mistakes here and there, but there were plenty out of Miami too. I don't think that this proved anything for Miami.
Okay.
It just proved that the Cowboys are genuinely their own worst enemy, but we'll get to that.
We are who they thought they were. We are who they thought they were.
This is what this is, man.
Yeah.
You ever see you see somebody and then you come back and you see him a little bit later, you're like, oh man, you grown up. And like at the core, they're kind of the same, but they have matured. This is like a matured person here. So like there's still problems. You still are at your core who you are.
Right.
But they've evolved. And so the big question is, now that they've evolved, now that they are they able to go the distance? But again, get to it. Right. We got to talk about all these shitty actual teams that think that they're good. That's my favorite part.
Paging Sean Brennan. We got so much to get into week 16. A lot happening. You know how the show works. We'll talk about what I consider to be the top 6 games of the weekend, and then we'll get into the rest of the NFL after that. And of course, we're not at 1,000 subscribers yet, so Streamlabs are the only way you can show support for the channel and for the show. So please remember to send them in as we go along through the show. Hey, it's the day after Christmas, so send in some love here. Give us some love as we are coming live to you right after Christmas. No rest for the weary, and because there was a lot of great action. So let's get into it. Let's not waste any time, brother. Lamar Jackson and these Ravens marched into San Francisco and kicked the shit out of the 49ers here, 33-19. Don't be fooled by that final score. This was an absolute ass whooping from the offense and the defensive side of the ball here. Lamar Jackson threw 3 touchdown passes in a span of 18 seconds to essentially put this game out of reach in the third quarter because the Ravens intercepted Brock Purdy throughout the game 4 separate times. It was so bad that Brock Purdy was essentially benched at the end. Yes, they claimed there was some injury issue or a head or whatever, but he wanted to come back in the game, and Sam Darnold ended up finishing out the game for the 49ers and made it somewhat close in that, if you call 14 points close. But in the end, this was an absolute drubbing, man. San Francisco's used to delivering these kinds of drubbings to other teams. It was really interesting to see them on the other side of this situation. What do you take away from this game about these Ravens who are sitting atop the AFC conference themselves with the number 1 seed overall here, facing the Miami Dolphins next weekend to essentially lock it down? What do you take away from these Ravens, and what do you take away from this 49ers team now with Brock Purdy throwing 4 interceptions in this game?
I mean, man, there's so much that came out of this game, which was crazy. The first was watching Florio's ridiculous commentary about how the Niners are going to completely wax the Ravens, that they ain't worth shit. They ain't going to do nothing.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Bro. Yeah. Watching that video, that shit aged so fucking poorly. And for him to also be wearing them Laker colors when they got waxed by the damn Boston Celtics, my God, I don't follow him a lot at all. I see him here and there, and it was enough from people showing that clip that I was like, my God, how does this man still have a job? Because he apparently does that a lot.
Him and Emmanuel Ocho, the black and white versions of each other, for God's sakes. Go ahead.
And the thing that makes that rough, Manny doesn't remember me at all, but I went to grade school with Manny, dude, and there is definitely times where I'm like, what the fuck is he talking about? Because even the way they were taught, they did their him and James Jones did their breakdown of the Ravens and the Niners, and who do you think who's got the better head coach? Manny took Shanahan. Yeah. And James Jones took Harbaugh. Yeah. And they're like, who's got the better QB? Manny took Brock Purdy. Yeah, totally. And James Jones took Lamar Jackson. Yeah. I understand the numbers that Brock Purdy has put up this year as far as his touchdowns. He has a perfect passer rating in a game, all that. people got to remember, and we've said this a million times.
Yeah.
Yes, Brock Purdy has talent. Yes, Brock Purdy will have a good career. Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant for a reason. It doesn't mean he can't outgrow that.
Right.
And he can. And this is essentially like the beginning of his sophomore year as a professional football player. Let's keep that in mind too. Yeah. But there is a reason that this man was drafted as low as he was. And it's not, he was drafted, which means he has talent.
Yeah.
He was drafted last because of shit like this.
Yeah.
And like, yes, a number of those are tip passes, but they're tip passes throwing to your receivers in danger, which allowed for those passes to then be tipped.
Right.
So when you throw in the situation, I don't think it's as much of a diss to say you work extremely well in this system.
Right.
Well, I think people immediately hear that and they go, you're not good enough to do it on your own. You have to, bro, Patrick Mahomes is the GOAT of the league right now.
Yeah.
He has the potential to surpass Brady at some point. Not this season. Definitely not this season.
No, not this season. No.
He has the potential to do it because of how insanely gifted he is at that.
Yeah.
But to pretend like Bieniemy and Reed and Kelsey and Sammy Watkins
Hill
there and Tyreek Hill when he was there doesn't make Patrick is wild.
Yeah.
To say that Tom Brady would be Tom Brady if he didn't have Belichick at his peak, Gronk rolling, Wes Welker, Randy Moss, all those cats, the defenses that you saw Belichick put together is nonsense. And if you need further proof, he didn't go to any random team and win the Super Bowl. He went to a team that was a quarterback away.
Yeah.
Mike Evans. Who's that? I can't even remember that other motherfucker that was across from Mike Evans that got hurt.
Yeah, was it Godwin? Yeah.
Godwin, thank you. Brought in AB, brought in Gronk, had a defense that was doing some shit in the set. So, like, to say that a quarterback is the one that's not a thing. Because if that's the case, Aaron Rodgers would have won the last 5 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
You have to have a squad around you.
Yeah.
And in this particular case, when the rest of the 49ers could not get it done, because McCaffrey still had over 100 yards rushing.
Yes, he did. In the first half. Yeah. He got to it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was up to Purdy to lead this team, and he did the exact opposite. He led them into a black hole.
Yeah.
And so it's just one of those situations where people going to start putting more respect on Lamar Jackson's name, just as far as like, okay, he may not have statistically the highest numbers.
Yeah.
But to my knowledge, I was always under the impression that an MVP, the most valuable player, is that person that without them, they would not be successful.
Right.
And in this particular case, with a 12-3 record, the best in the NFL, beating the other best team in the NFL.
True.
Pretty much got the number 1 seed in the AFC lockdown. Yeah. And he may not have all those, but he is making sure this team wins games at no matter what the cost.
Yeah.
And that to me is, I think, the big difference maker. I don't look at any of the games that Lamar had and go, God damn, what a colossal collapse.
Mm-hmm.
But I could say it about Dak. I could say it about Josh Allen. I could say it about Christian McCaffrey.
Rodgers.
I could say it less so with McCaffrey, but I could say it about Brock Purdy. All of these other front runners, even Tyreek Hill. The sad thing about that is he's had very few quiet games, but more importantly, with him getting injured the last couple of weeks, he has not been able to keep at the clip that he's going. If he still somehow surpasses 2,000 yards, I think personally you still got to give it to Tyreek Hill.
Yeah,
because then you're doing something that doesn't happen.
Okay. All right.
But Lamar's that man, and so is this Ravens defense. They're at this point, I still think it'll be probably Niners Ravens in the Super Bowl, but the Ravens got their number, bro. It's about to be 2012 all over again.
Yeah, I was kind of scared to watch that Ravens defense. I mean, I've been watching the NFL, been watching for decades. You know that for the pretty much the entire 2000s, going back to when Harbaugh started to be the coach of the Ravens, that defense has been incredible. And as always, they've had some down years, but they've always been a tough defense to play, a hard-nosed defense to play. Ray Lewis being essentially the touchstone for them, leading them and like giving that attitude to the defense. And now it's back. And now you've got a seasoned Lamar. People forget, you come after Purdy all you want. As you said, he's still in the second year, essentially, as a quarterback. Lamar has taken a lot of hits, a lot of criticisms, he's a choke artist, can't get it done in the playoffs. Same thing happened when he was at college at Louisville. Same thing, same accusations, all this kind of stuff. But it seems like he has slowly and surely and quietly, these Ravens have slowly just kind of worked their way into this position here, and they've gotten better on both sides of the ball. And listen, having lost Mark Andrews, having lost now Keaton Mitchell last week, having lost J.K. Dobbins earlier in the season, they are literally the definition of next man up and getting the job done here. And they seem to be only getting stronger, even as pieces of their team fall off. They seem to be getting stronger, which is a huge anomaly in the NFL. So it's just incredible to watch their game. But yeah, Brock Purdy, this is not a player that can play from behind, essentially. And so it's a new experience. Couldn't get a job. He seemed pretty rattled after that third interception, and I think they did the right thing by bringing in Sam Darnold. And at the end of the day, these Ravens, really, you've got to now put respect on their name. And now they've got this matchup with Miami next week, who is also kind of coming into their own, which we're going to get to in just a few seconds here in that game. So this is going to be an interesting game with them going forward. San Francisco still essentially holds the inside track for number one slot in the NFC. So if they win out, they're going to stay number one there and have home field advantage. So they don't lose anything by losing this game except a little bit of pride. And maybe, just maybe, like that 3-game losing streak, this was a game they needed yet again, riding high, feeling themselves, get knocked back down to earth, and you got to do some work here going into the playoffs. This can either be a blessing in disguise or a harbinger of things to come. And don't be surprised if there's a shock result here where San Francisco goes out in the first or second round, not even getting to the NFC Championship. That could be shocking. So we will see at the end of the day what happens with them. But yeah, a good game by the Ravens. Really great stuff to see them. And we'll see if they can get it done. Because Winston, one thing we've learned, and we talked about it last week, just when you're ready to anoint a team, they go and shit the bed the next week. We've seen this over and over and over again now this season. So who knows if Miami is going to tear Baltimore apart next week? We will see.
We're back to the comment we made like 3-4 weeks in. I don't think, because now seeing the Niners do that, man.
Yeah,
I don't think there is a great team in football this year.
Yeah.
I think there is a whole bunch of very good teams, and there's even tiers to that.
Yeah.
Well, I would make the argument that like the Niners and the Ravens, I'll still give the Niners their due. This was just a shellacking against the other best team in football.
Yeah.
They're like 1A, 1B. Then all the rest of those good teams, which are like the Cowboys, the Lions, the Dolphins, the Bills, all that, they're all that like 2, and they all just kind of bounce around. Because if you look at the like if someone was doing like a serial killer map with the strings of yarn, the yarn theory shit, it's like, well, this team beat the shit out of this team, but then got waxed by this team that got destroyed by the team that got beat over. Like there's no like this team is really just doing the damn thing. Yeah. The only two are the Ravens and the Niners, and the Ravens clearly have the advantage right now just from that. But you're right. The flip side of that, Brock Purdy has 3 playoff wins.
Yeah.
Like what Lamar has 1.
Yeah. 1.
Like, you know what I'm saying? And he's been in the league for years.
Yep.
So that in and of itself is its own level of problems. Lamar Jackson has to get over that Peyton Manning mentality that
100%.
he had
100%.
for the whole beginning part of his career, where he is that regular season dude that will dominate you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then when it's time to actually go get a chip, can't get over the hump. Now is the time for Lamar. Like, obviously, they've already made the playoffs. They've probably got that number 1 seed locked down. Now is the time. Like, I don't really give a shit what he does against Miami. I think that would be good for them to win that. Like, don't shit up to chance.
Yeah.
And then who's their last game? Do you know?
I'm looking at them right now. They played the Dolphins and then the Steelers at home in Baltimore.
Those are 2 rough ass games. And Brock has 2. He's played in 3. He has 2.
Yeah.
What we're not talking about Dak right now. Do you want a cookie? So sorry. Someone's like, how many playoff wins does Dak have? 2. Shut up.
Yeah.
So the point is, Lamar Jackson in this particular case, I don't really care what he does in these last 2 games. I think that'll set your mentality, but I need to see him take this train and run that bitch all the way to the Super Bowl, because at this point, again, the field is weak.
Yeah.
The Chiefs are not there. The Bills flip-floppy. Dolphins first win against a winning record team this week. You can dominate the AFC to the Super Bowl. You just need to do it now. You know what I'm saying? So that's going to be the question if Lamar can do that.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting game next week. It's going to be fun. I mean, the NFL is certainly salivating at the idea that the Ravens are going to play the Dolphins for the number 1 seed in the AFC. That's going to be a lot of fun to see next week for sure. But yeah, these Ravens acquitted themselves incredibly well in this game. We'll see what they end up being by the time they show up against Miami. We will see. And Baltimore improved to 6-1 this season against teams currently in playoff positioning, outscoring them by an average of 16 points per game. That is crazy. Incredible, man.
That's crazy, dude.
So yeah. Well, let's move on to another AFC. That's who they're playing next week. That's the Dolphins. They took on the Cowboys here. Another AFC East team. The Cowboys were playing, and sadly, just like against the Bills, they couldn't get the job done. Although this score was much more tighter, 22-20. Jason Sanders kicked 5 field goals. So as much as you want to give love to the Dolphins for winning this game, they did it by kicking 5 field goals. They weren't throwing the ball into the end zone or scoring a lot of touchdowns. It was 5 field goals here, and Jason Sanders kicked his 5th field goal, a 29-yarder as time expired to lead to the Dolphins to victory here. Tua threw for 293 yards and a touchdown. He connected with Tyreek Hill twice on the decisive drive, and Hill had 9 catches for 99 yards after missing last week because of that head injury. Dak Prescott was 20 of 32 for 253 yards and 2 touchdowns, but he also had a costly fumble there, Winston, and it was such a weird game. CeeDee Lamb had 6 catches for 118 yards. Thank you, Fantasy, for these Cowboys. But in the end, it was a back-and-forth game. The Cowboys looked at they had taken control of the game back from the Dolphins, and then in the end, the Dolphins drove down and got themselves that field goal to win the game. So what are your thoughts about your Cowboys and about these Dolphins? Have they finally figured it out, or is this fool's gold with this victory?
I think it sucks for Dak that he's had too many errors on the season with some of these games, because even in this game, this is very similar to that Eagles game that we lost.
Yeah.
Dak outplayed Tua. Dak outplayed the Dolphins. However, all it takes is a few costly mistakes, because I wouldn't even say that opening drive fumble was the thing that did it. Like, that's not great. And I don't even think that should be attributed to him. Clearly, you see Pollard not grip the ball properly.
Yeah.
And then that's a whole conversation about what Pollard's real role should be. Yeah. Pollard genuinely is that change of pace guy. He cannot be the lead back. He's had all season to do that.
Yeah.
So that's not it. It's not on Dak here.
Yeah.
For me, it is truly on, because the defense even did their job. Where I'm looking at it is coaching specifically. I like what Mike McCarthy has done this year, but we had a similar issue a few years ago where we were the most penalized team in football.
Right.
And it showed up. And a lot of people always say that that's discipline. And that's, truthfully, you know what lost us the game? Because you had them on 3rd and 15. A goddamn face mask to a chain that gave them 15 yards and an automatic first down. You literally just gave their dude that just kicked a 57-yarder that much more time to get into position and to just drill this bitch in. Yeah. And that's the type of shit that will fuck you. So it sucks that again, Dak played a better game.
Yes.
That the defense did what they were supposed to do to hold stuff down. But when it came down to it, that they were so undisciplined with those penalties, it cost you the game. Yeah. And that sucks. That sucks so hard. How did we get destroyed last week against the Bills? What was the thing that happened to us?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm asking you.
To me, they just broke down defensively. They couldn't stop the run. The Bills leaned into James Cook and just kept pounding the ball into the Dolphins or into the defense. Yeah.
We could not stop the run. And did you see the adjustment that got made? Mustard, 11 carries, 46 yards. A chain, 7 carries, 24. Shut that shit down.
Yeah.
You held Tyreek Hill, Mr. I average almost 200 yards a fucking game to 99 yards.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's crazy. You did what you were supposed to do, but you let yourself get in the way of you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It would literally be if we're talking schmodown shit, bro, you're out here balling out of control.
Yeah.
But then when it's time to do the whole spelling shit on the whiteboard, you're JTE, and now you've lost critical points that when it comes down to one goddamn point, you know what I'm saying? And that's that face mask. The minute it happened, I was sitting there with my girlfriend and her family, and they're like, "Oh, there's plenty of time." Because I said, "No, the game's fucking over. That's it. The game." They're like, "Why are you being so big?" I said, "Because the game is over. They are moving the ball 15 fucking yards right now. That's the game."
Fans know, man. We know.
As soon as then they went back, I was like, it couldn't have been a face mask. And I saw his head go like this. Yeah. I said, fuck, man. And that's it. And that's it. What are you going to do?
Just like I knew the Commanders were going to lose to the Jets as soon as Simeon threw that ball to Wilson there on that final drive, right? To the Jets, for God's sakes. Yeah, it's true. It's those situations. But I will say this. I mean, Mike McDaniel, the Dolphins, they should feel good about this. They did get a victory against a team with a winning record, but it wasn't a convincing victory. It wasn't a sound victory. It wasn't a hard victory. It was certainly a hard-nosed, tough victory, but it wasn't that kind of decisive victory that you want to see from a team that's trying to turn around the narrative about itself. So, yes, you got the job done, but barely. So, we're going to see what happens here when they play Baltimore. If Baltimore kicks the shit out of them, then all the questions are going to pop back up again about these Dolphins. So, kudos on you to winning the game. To me, I worry about the Cowboys now, man. We had been going high on them, and this loss to the Bills, this loss to the Dolphins, these are tough back-to-back losses for them to deal with. I wonder what they're learning. I wonder how they bounce back. Because obviously they weren't blown out like they were against the Bills, so they made adjustments, as you said. But still, there's something that feels like maybe, once again, there's just this little something missing from these Cowboys to get them over the hump. We'll see if maybe they'll figure it out by the time we get to the playoffs, but it's going to be interesting overall, because the Eagles are going to squeak out that division, but it's going to be barely. So I'm
gonna tell you this right now, man. And the funny thing is, the Eagles still may not. Like, we're gonna talk about them in a second. Yeah, they still may give us the division because of what the fuck was this game. So there's that, and we'll talk about that. But I'll be honest with you, I would rather be a Dolphins fan right now than a Chiefs fan. I'm glad the Chiefs got their 2 goddamn Super Bowl wins and their other appearance, because 2023, 2024 ain't their year, baby.
Let's talk about it before we get into before we take our first break. Let's move into our third game here, the Kansas City Chiefs game. Unfortunately, we don't have Sean Brennan in the house, but we're gonna have to have anyway.
He hadn't.
Got to open that box of coal there, Sean. Yeah, these Chiefs. I mean, this was shocking. Let me tell you something. First of all, this should happen every Christmas, for God's sakes. 3 separate games that are only the games you're watching that day. I love this idea. You want to battle the NBA? Take the onus away from them by doing something like this. I thought this was great. Having this game start off the week with Raiders and Chiefs here, the Chiefs just absolutely shitting the bed at home in Kansas City. Imagine getting up early, skipping Christmas presents or opening them early, getting in the shower, getting in the car, getting to the stadium just to watch your team get absolutely mollywopped by a rival team in these Raiders. And by the way, the Raiders are not out of contention to win the division. Apparently, and I heard this during the broadcast yesterday, if the Chiefs lose out and the Raiders win out, the Raiders win the division, and the Chiefs might not even make the fucking playoffs. I mean, that is so insane to consider.
Did I or did I not say that was a possibility? And Sean told me that I joined your blood feud all of a sudden.
Yeah.
I just, the only thing funnier about it, and I see Jeremy Miller saying this too, did I watch the Nickelodeon broadcast of this, bro? They were making all these Taylor jokes and blah, blah, blah. And there goes Taylor's boyfriend. And then by the end, they were like, man, the Chiefs are really getting slimed out here. But my favorite by far, NFL memes on Twitter, I got to give them credit, man. Yeah. They said, Taylor is the queen of eras. The Chiefs are in their downfall era, and I damn near spit my drink all over my in-laws' house, bro. Didn't you have an album called Midnights? She did.
The clock's about to strike midnight on these Chiefs. This was
what do you mean about to? What you mean about to? Yo.
I know. The Raiders had 2 defensive touchdowns. I watched this game real time, watching them score back-to-back on a pick 6 and a fumble. That was just insane to watch that here. And they got the job done, held off these Chiefs, and they had a terrible offensive day. Let me read to you the offensive statistics of the Raiders. O'Connell was 9 of 21 for 62 yards. The entire game, 9 of 20. They did not complete a pass in the second half at all.
Bro, they didn't complete a pass in the second quarter on.
Exactly. Yes, 0 for 3 in the red zone, 3 for 12 on third down. They had 7 fewer first downs than the Kansas City Chiefs. White had a good day, ran for 145 yards, but that was mostly on the final possession. So, and they were held to minus 18 yards in the first. This was just insane to watch this happen. The Raiders played shitty offense, but the Chiefs just gave the game away. Couldn't get it going on offense. And at some point now, dude, we're in the 16th game. You have to ask the question, or the 15th game, rather. You have to, the 16th week, you have to ask the question, like, what is left for this team to do in terms of fixing things? Because it doesn't look like anything is working, and they're getting worse week to week as an offense.
They can't because I don't know if anybody is like, you know, I should be pushing people towards our podcast, but if people aren't listening to Nightcap with Uncle Shannon and Ocho Cinco,
please.
Not only is it fucking hilarious, they are so funny, but you're talking about two of the greatest people to catch the ball ever in the National Football League. And so they talk about not just knowing the game, but specifically knowing about receiving.
Yeah.
And they called it. We said it early too, and Sean thought we were just out here trying to make fun of the Chiefs and blood feud and all that. But they have since called it out and just further backed it up. When you have this bad of a receiving core and your only option is Travis Kelce, cool. Guess what you do? Take Travis Kelce out of the game, make the rest of them kind of show up. And the problem is, Ocho was describing it. He goes, this receiving core is so bad. These DBs can sit in their zone and not engage.
Yeah.
And still stop these passes because these receivers cannot get open.
Yep.
And then if they do get open, they drop the ball.
Right.
So you know what I'm saying? So there's nothing to be scared of. And so then what Shannon Sharp took beyond that was going, and what makes that horrible is the fact that now you're making Patrick Mahomes, who already makes magic happen, have to make more magic out of something that's just not there.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like you are putting him in a position to be compromised. And so it doesn't matter how good he is, because you've seen Brady go on hissy fits with receivers before, where if you're not doing your job, he can't throw it and catch it to himself.
Right.
And if you're triple covering Travis Kelce, that's it. That's all you need to do. He's now not a factor, which 5 catches for 44 yards. He only got targeted 7 times because that's all you really could do. And Rashee Rice will get there. He's a rookie. He's doing the best. He's doing so good. But I need Edwards-Helaire. Obviously he's a running back, but I need Edwards-Helaire. I need fucking Valdez-Scantling, who got 1 target because of his goddamn nonsense. Sky Moore. You need these cats to show up. And they don't. And that's it, man. That's literally it. That is why the Chiefs have no chance in hell of doing anything.
Yeah, no, it looks bad, man. When you're watching this offense, they're not getting better. You know, other teams, we've seen with the Patriots for many, many years, right? Belichick and Brady rather, would scheme with their lesser quality receivers. They'd find a way to get their receivers in the right positions, the timing, all of that would work so well. But they would catch the ball, right? Why? Because they were all deathly afraid of going back to the huddle and confronting Tom Brady or Bill Belichick if they dropped the ball. And with Belichick, he would put you on a train out of town at halftime. Belichick didn't care. He would cut you during the game. Like, he had that kind of mentality, right? I'm being facetious, but you get the point. If you fucked up, you were on a train the next day. Like, Bill didn't care. Reed doesn't have that. Kansas City doesn't have that. Mahomes doesn't have that. There's not that air. You know, the thing that people loved about Patrick is, and they talk about, he's a super nerd. You know, he's studying the game. We're at a volleyball game. He's sitting out in the car watching tape. That's great. Tom scares the shit out of you. Patrick doesn't scare the shit out of anybody. He's just complaining and whining, throwing that helmet, confronting the refs. Even last week when that pass went off the hands of Tony for an interception, he was like, come on, catch the ball. And then this week too, the same thing, call the fucking play. There's not that sense of like, oh my God, this guy scares the shit out of me. I better catch the fucking ball.
That's the thing.
That matters.
Mahomes is that scary. I think the problem is that the rest of the team isn't. Because there's something to be said about, like, again, there were times where Brady didn't have the best receivers. He maybe had one solid option. Because like Gronk kept getting hurt. So there was a year where all he had was either Edelman or Welker to like bail him out of shit, and the others would. But you know what Brady would be doing? Cussing bitches out. What the fuck you think you're doing? Brady is the nicest dude on the planet. Everybody has said he's the best teammate to play with, right? But if you fuck up, Brady's in your ass. And that's the problem. Is I felt like, and I get it because I'm a nice guy, so I don't like to ruffle feathers. I don't like, and I do think there was a level of taking the responsibility as the leader of the team that Patrick was doing. But at least on the, like, I'm not saying go and throw your dudes under the bus on national television, but also I want to see him on the sidelines being like, let's get it. What the fuck you doing, bitch? If you don't catch that goddamn ball, I swear to God, I'll make sure you never play again, nigga. Like, I need, but more like, if you don't catch that fucking ball, I swear to God, you'll never play again, you stupid bitch. Like, I needed to see that Patrick not now. It's too late now. That needed to happen 5-6 weeks ago. That front office needed to go find a receiver 5, 6, 7 weeks ago, whenever the trade deadline or any of that. You know what I'm saying? That is the part where the Chiefs have fucked up, is that they have gotten in their mind they're untouchable. And they have been touched multiple times. But the real thing at this game, baby, goddamn right, it goddamn check to Antonio Pierce tonight. Pay that man immediately. He needs to be the head coach. Come on.
I mean, to get them to march into Kansas City and get this victory is incredible. And now they've got the Colts, they're Jekyll and Hyde as hell the whole season. They're going to be in Indianapolis, and the Broncos, who might be out of it by the time they play the Broncos, their last game of the season. That's the Raiders. The Chiefs have got the Bengals, who are still playing for the playoffs, and they're at the Chargers. It could be and who knows what you're going to get with the Chargers, because what's his face gave Easton stick. He gave everything Buffalo could handle there before Buffalo squeaked out the victory. So who knows what you're going to get in the Chargers, who have nothing to lose and would probably love knocking the Chiefs out of the playoffs. So this is going to be interesting as the next 2 weeks unfold, because this team they don't look like they're ready. And look, we can blame Mahomes all we want, but the truth is that O-line is breaking down every game. Multiple times a game.
Dude.
They're committing all kinds of stupid penalties. Even if Mahomes escapes like 5 defenders to throw the ball, Winston, the receivers aren't catching the ball. So it becomes deflating for him to make all this effort just for them to drop easy passes or tough passes. Even that's your fucking job, to catch the ball. So it is frustrating to watch this kind of stuff. And I do feel bad for Patrick, although I do think he does deserve some of the blame here as well. What's up?
So I would say some, but like it's minimal, because again, Patrick still threw for 235 and a touchdown, and then yes, you had that interception. And it's interesting that they're giving that fumble to Pacheco versus Mahomes. It actually makes fantasy football hilarious for that reason. That feels like Vegas maybe had something to do with that. They said, give it to Pacheco. Watch it anyway. But between that, I mean, again, you're right. It's this O-line. And I sent you a really funny tweet about Patrick taking them damn fucking go-karts back. Because, like, I'm looking at it, and there were 10 QB hits by the Raiders, and Patrick was sacked 4 times. On top of the penalties that you mentioned. You know what I'm saying? So, like, it's funny. Again, misplaced anger by Patrick. Yeah, exactly. So they're like, oh, this is Patrick taking back his golf carts.
Patrick Mahomes taking back the Christmas gift for his offensive line after the game. Because he had gifted them these carts.
These custom golf carts,
for the golf carts for the O-line. Right. And so here's the original gift there. And look, I love this one. They put
the boot.
Put the boots on So good.
But yeah, man, I don't like seeing the Chiefs go this way. I've never had any beef with this team. I only didn't like Andy Reid because he used to coach like a hated rival in my division, but I've always respected him as a coach, and I thought he's a good dude. I don't like seeing them self-destruct. I think the only part of it for me maybe is because the Taylor shit was so annoying. It was cute at the beginning where it was like, oh, good for Travis, good for Taylor. They seem happy. But then when she was on TV every 2 seconds, I think a large majority of regular NFL fans that aren't like new to it because of her, I feel like a lot of them were like, bro, fuck the Chiefs. Like something switched for everybody to go, nah, fuck the Chiefs, because it just got annoying.
It does.
So but again, I have no beef against Travis and Taylor. I hope they have a very long, happy life together. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is what it is. So we'll see, man.
It's not the arena for it. And look, I know she came out with the dad, Brads and Chads and all. Everyone was like, yes, queen, yes. But like, this is the deal. All right. This is the NFL. It's a different arena. Okay. Having the, oh my God, reaction to everything, it does get annoying. If you're watching it, it really just looks like a cheerleader from high school watching the star quarterback do her thing. And it just gets on your nerves a little bit. Again, that woman is super famous, super great at what she does. Her and Travis, if they're going to go and be a couple and get married, have kids, more power to them. But when we're watching the NFL, we as fans also have a right to get irritated by shit. We also have a right to not like something or think it's too much. And that's what it feels like it's happening here. Nothing wrong cheering for your boyfriend, cheering for your husband, cheering for your significant other, whatever. But it's just the constant focus. And look, people turned on that fan. I think she's Filipino, the fan there for the Chargers. People turned on her. So the NFL is a tough place. If you're looking for kumbaya, hand holding, stroke my hair, let's be fair to everybody thing, you're in the wrong fucking arena. It's not going to happen, unfortunately. So
yeah, and again, I say this much. Everybody has wives. Everybody, in the NFL or girlfriends or baby mamas. You got kids. Right. I'm not stressed out about that. I don't even necessarily think that Taylor is a distraction for the Chiefs unless we found out that she's constantly in the locker room and holding little mini concerts, or like that Travis isn't showing up to practices, and the times that he's like playing like ass.
Or
you know what I'm saying?
Because she's on the sidelines giving plays to Andy Reid.
Unless that's what you're hearing, she literally has nothing to do with it. The only thing that would be there, honestly, because I would make the same argument with Jessica Simpson when that happened, because Tony was still playing well. The team just ended up not doing well. And because Tony is the quarterback, he was getting the blame for it. You know what I'm saying? So it's a situation where because she's around, she's catching strays here.
Yeah.
And that's not it. The Chiefs have failed as an organization. That's what's going on.
Yeah. And when things are falling apart, you want to look for outside reasons for why this is happening. So unfortunately, fans are turning on Taylor Swift because of that situation. And so, that's the way it goes. So let's take a break here. We're going to get into the rest of the games here and answer some of your Streamlabs. Just posted the Streamlabs address in the chats. It's also pinned in the description. It's also right there on the screen if you want to send in some after Christmas support for us here. We'll be right back right after this. All right, Winston, let's get into a couple of these Streamlabs that have come through. Mike Joy says, is it safe to say that Taylor Swift is now a curse on the Chiefs? They've been awful when she's in attendance lately. What can they do to lift the Swift curse? Well, I think we addressed that, but it is ridiculous to say that. They're still 5-3 when she watches the games, and it can't be a curse if it started out and they were winning games in front of her, a lot of games, and then now because they're losing, it's suddenly a curse by Taylor.
Well, I don't know. I think what Taylor was at this point, if we're just because we're just talking karmically and maybe karmically and maybe even mentality a little bit, but more karmically, it feels very much like pre-workout. If you finish your workout before the pre-workout is gone, cool. You probably had a great lift or a great run.
Right.
But if you're still going and that shit has worn off, you are exhausted. And that's kind of what it feels like. It's like there was a lot of good juju that all of a sudden all these Swifties were watching, and it's such a cute love story. Look at them go. And we're doing whole, like, for Sunday Night Football, they're doing all these little puns with her little albums and stuff. Like, cool. Karmically, your pre-workout kicked in and you got a little shot in the ass. And now you're fucking tired. Now you still have to do you should have bench pressed at the beginning because you got no fucking energy left, bro. So
You're gonna go run how long after you lift it? Yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen, my guy. I don't think it's gonna happen. All right, let's move on to these Eagles here. Talk about a team that's still being put together with scotch tape and barbed wire here. The Eagles ended a 3-game skid to maintain control of the NFC East here with a 33-25 victory over the Giants. Listen, this looked like an Eagles rout, and then it looked like the Eagles were going to blow the game, but then eventually they took control of the game here. Kenneth Gainwell ripped off a 22-yard run. DeAndre Swift scored on a 5-yard run, and they did just enough there. And Hurts got himself a tush-push touchdown as well that gave him the NFL record for the most rushing touchdowns by a quarterback in a season. Believe that? Over Vic, over Randall Cunningham, over all these fantastic.
Of course, because how have they scored every touchdown? Because Jalen Hurts finally threw a game for 300 yards for the first time in a long time. Let me actually see when the last one was before this, because it's been jankety. Let's see, 301 for this one. Before that, against Seattle, 143, 197 against us. Very close with San Francisco at 298. Yeah, but that was such a shellacking. I don't think anybody cares. 200 before that, 150 before that, 200 before that. So his last one was against Washington, another sorry team, no offense, that's not going to the playoffs. Back in at the end of October. You know what I'm saying? Like he just again, I think he's playing hurt, and he played a very good game this game. However, we're still talking about how the Eagles just ain't there, bro. Yeah. Like you know what I'm saying? Like there is no reason that the New York Football Giants that we beat the brakes off of, that a number of top teams that are in the playoffs beat the brakes off of. You struggled and almost lost it at the end. You won by 8.
It was 30-25 late in the fourth quarter. Let that sink in.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That is absolutely insane. And so I am just saying that because of that, I am happy to see that the Eagles clearly don't really have the sauce this year, because this did not instill cool. You got a dub. It doesn't instill confidence. You know what I'm saying?
This was at home.
This was at home. Yeah. That shouldn't instill confidence in Eagles fans. You should be happy you ended your 3-game losing streak. Yeah. But do you realize that this is exactly how you lost to Seattle last week?
Yeah.
Are you aware of the fact that you had them and you let it go? You almost lost the first game to us because, again, that's a 5-point spread because Dak just couldn't keep it in bound for the 2-point conversion, and you just missed that. Like, the Eagles are going to keep doing this to themselves. You did not improve. You just didn't lose.
Yeah. I know. It's kind of scary to look at here because I said 30-25. The Giants were driving. They were on the Eagles' 26-yard line when Tyrod Taylor threw that interception there in the end zone to Kelee Ringo. And so Kelee Ringo. So it was set up there for them to possibly upset these Eagles right at the end. And I loved all the shots of the Eagles fans who were sitting in the stands going, you could see on their faces, here we go again. Here we go again. You could see that they had resigned themselves to another shocking loss. And look, they're turning on Jalen Hurts. They booed them throughout. They booed Jalen throughout the game. They booed Sirianni throughout the game because they were telling him to run the ball. And he finally, eventually acquiesced with DeAndre Swift doing better. But this was a game that easily could have slipped through their hands. So again, another team that is shaky right near the end of the season going into the playoffs. They still control the NFC East if they win out. But if they lose one of these games that they have coming up here, I think against the Cardinals and the Giants, then they could slide in, the Eagles, the Cowboys could, and take that division out from under them. So this is crazy, man.
Like L Boogie's saying, a W's a W, right? Or is it not? So here's my thing.
Yeah.
If this was the Super Bowl and that's what happened, then you can have that all day.
Right.
And yes, we all know that the actual season record, and if you still barely squeak it out in the playoff, that all counts.
Yeah.
But you need to understand there is a reason you went on a 3-game skid. Is because you literally keep doing this. And when you're playing against a real team, you cannot finish.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. Because again, you look at what Buffalo and Kansas City have done this season, and those two, quote unquote, you beat some juggernauts, don't look like that good of wins anymore. Because Buffalo is still scrapping for their life to make sure they make the playoffs, and the Chiefs may not even get there. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, all of a sudden, we really did the damn thing. No, you didn't. Yeah. Like, you should have been on a 5-game losing streak, and you barely squeaked that. Technically is 6. So, like, fuck, you almost lost to Washington before you barely beat us. I forgot about that. Like, I'm just be as happy as you want to be that you have the division lead, and good luck to you. And I hope you get everything in life that you want to you. But if you're okay with this, if you're genuinely okay with this, I have no sympathy for you when this blows up in your face. I thought that maybe these 3 weeks would have like inspired you to want your team to do better, because they didn't do better. They did just enough. Yeah. That's not okay.
Yeah, I mean, tough, hard-nosed victories are great for a team's character when they're coming against legitimately tough teams, right? But like the Dolphins with the Cowboys game, like, you got to say, okay, did they turn the corner? Let's see what happens next week against Baltimore. But if you're having these kind of games against lower-level competition, that's not a good thing. That is not a good thing. And this has been happening, as you said, the entire season. They barely beat the Patriots by 5 points. Barely beat the Bucs by 6 points. They barely beat my Commanders by 3 points. They lost to the Jets by 6. They barely beat the Cowboys by 5, so give them love there. They barely beat the Bills by 3. They got destroyed by the Niners, destroyed by the Cowboys, and they lost to the Seahawks there. And now they barely beat the Giants by 8. This is not a good team rolling in to win the NFC East and go into the playoffs here. This is going to be really interesting, because you've got Kyler Murray and the Cardinals. They haven't exactly been great. They're a bit Jekyll and Hyde, but Kyler Murray can get on a run here and absolutely upset these Eagles in Philadelphia. It's another game at the Link, and then they've got to go to New York to play these Giants. Maybe Tyrod Taylor, maybe Tommy DeVito, who knows? But either way, the Giants would love to play spoiler to the Eagles and knock them out of the division lead. Yeah.
Look, El Boogie, I get what you're saying, and I might have rose-colored glasses because Eagles fans on Twitter make it seem like they y'all that shit.
Yeah.
I have never seen a team so hard. Like, it would be one thing if El Boogie goes, yeah, bro, that was fucking awful. Yeah, I'm glad we got a dub. Not a dub as a dub, because when you say it like that, you make it seem like none of that shit matters. Versus if you say, fuck, that was awful. I am happy we were able to get the win. You're acknowledging that you guys are not doing enough. Like, for them to be the NFC champs, for them to have been the favorites to go in, for Jalen Hurts to have been made all first team, all pro. You know what I'm saying? Those are the types of things where I would expect so much more, but I'm not scared of them. I am so not scared of the Eagles. It's laughable. I'm scared of the Ravens. I am still scared of the Niners even after that collapse.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I am not scared of the Eagles. The same way I'm not scared of the Chiefs. The Eagles and the Chiefs literally look like that Super Bowl fatigue really hit them motherfuckers, because they both do not look good.
It's true. That's true. Before we move on to the next 2 games here, let's hit these 2 Streamlabs. Fred Tastic says, hey, game time, showing my support. But Cowboys can have a great defense, but if they can't make that crucial stop when they need to, then you end up at home during the remainder of the playoffs wondering shoulda, coulda, woulda. Yeah, are there questions to be asked on the defensive side of the ball here, Winston, for your Cowboys?
Dan Quinn does a good job of locking down on wherever there was, like, again, the run was the issue last time, and you're talking about 2 of the most explosive backs in football, in Mostert and a Chain, and you locked it down. But again, the one thing that has really, because even a couple years ago when we were playing the Niners and we lost that game because of time management.
Yeah.
And everybody said that's a discipline thing. That's a coaching thing. You have to get that shit under control. And what ended up happening? We ended up losing in the playoffs to the Niners because we couldn't handle the clock.
That's true.
We're going to see the same thing happen with the Cowboys this playoffs. I didn't realize we were penalized that much. If we remain this penalized all the way through the playoff, we will lose a game because of goddamn penalties. Yeah. And that's literally how we lost this game to the Dolphins. So yeah, they got it. Now, mind you, there was a really shitty roughing the passer call on Micah Parsons that was nonsense. Yeah. And I would also argue the one against Dak that would have been technically a safety was also nonsense.
Right.
But like, I don't care. You can't have our O-line making that many false starts. You can't have that many holding calls. You got to get your shit together, man.
Yeah, good point. Big Max 06, thank you so much, Big Max, for the wonderful support here. He sent, as a lifetime Cowboys fan who was at the game, I am starting to lose hope in them this year. Same story, different year. Just wanted to show you all some love. Thank you, Big Max. Really, really appreciate it. Very kind of you on this Christmas. So, yeah, Winston, I thought they had made, you know what? They had made believers out of me a few weeks ago.
Who did?
And I'm as skeptical as they come. Now I'm back in this boat that feels so familiar with these Cowboys over the last few years. And it sucks because I'm not a Cowboys fan. I'm a Commanders fan. So I hate them.
Right.
But I also respect good football teams and want them to succeed. And I think Dak is a legitimately good dude. And so it's like, we want them to succeed, but man, it is just not, we're back in the same boat again, aren't we?
I'll say this because a lot of people are showing their same true colors here. It's not a thing until it's a thing. The Cowboys have shown something different this year.
Yes.
The question is, are those changes stronger than their past mistakes? So are we going to see Mike McCarthy look at it and go, yes, we've been penalized too much, clean that shit up? Are we going to see Brock Purdy, when you get pressured, you start to self-destruct? Are they going to do things with him that help shore him up and make him calm down? Lamar Jackson, you dominate this league during the regular season. Did Harbaugh do something with him, or did Lamar find it himself to get over that hump? Patrick, we've never seen you in this kind of slump. Are you able to turn the Mahomes magic back on? Like, it is one of those situations where you are who you are until you prove it otherwise. And so far, every kind of narrative, with the exception of the Chiefs, is kind of right where it always has been. There's been a couple of seasons where the Dolphins have been super good, but then when it's time to do something, they don't do anything. You know what I'm saying? You have a difference maker in Tua and Tyreek Hill and those running backs and McDaniel, but are you going to do something about it? You know what I'm saying? Like, the Ravens have always been that defense. Lamar Jackson been that man. Are you going to do something about it? So that is my question. Good for the Lions. We're about to talk about them winning the division. Are you actually going to do something? Because last time you made it to the playoffs, you got bounced instantly.
So let's talk about them. The Lions hung on. Another team that's, wow, they almost went down, Nick Mullins and these Vikings here. They hung on to win 30-24 here. Jamar Gibbs, thank you, Jamar, my fantasy starting rusher here, had 2 rushing touchdowns. Amon-Ra St. Brown had 106 receiving yards, and the third quarter go-ahead score here. And then there was an interception at the 5-yard line with 49 seconds to go, when Mullins was targeting Jefferson after he had completed, I think, a 3rd and 27 pass to Jefferson. And unfortunately, threw that interception that pretty much killed the rally there at the end. Mullins scored, he was intercepted 4 times, but he had 2 touchdowns on 411 passing yards. So there's still questions to ask about this Lions defense if they're giving up 400 yards to Nick Mullins for the Vikings, for God's sakes. Goff had 257 yards without a turnover. David Montgomery had a couple of rushing touchdowns for these Lions as well. And Goff finally got over the mark and beat a Brian Flores defense. Goff lost to the Brian Flores defense, who was in charge of the Patriots on the defensive side of the ball in the Super Bowl, and lost to them last year, I think, in some critical game as well. So this is an interesting situation here. Congratulations to the Lions. First time winning a division in 22 seasons. 30 seasons rather. And they will finally hang a banner in Ford Field for a division championship. But as you said, and they're going to host a game. So as you said, Winston, though, there still might be questions to ask of this Lions team as they're going into the playoffs as well.
Yeah, look, I think that we are watching the evolution of the Lions, and I think that they will slowly, because that is what Dan Campbell is doing, change their identity. But I do think there's some ghosts here, and I do think that we've seen enough of stuff going on that, again, the Cowboys feel different, but until they show it, okay. The Lions feel different, and they showed it at least in their regular season record, because they haven't shown records like this. Like some of these other teams that have, but then they fall apart in the playoffs, the Ravens, the Cowboys, the Dolphins, the Bills. You have shown that you can end up with like a 4-loss season.
Yeah.
But then you can't finish.
Yeah.
I love seeing this in the Lions, but is Jared Goff going to revert to the 14-3 Super Bowl quarterback? Like what, you know what I'm saying? Like what will happen is we need to see it happen. So
yeah, so we'll see what happens. And you know, congratulations to the Lions. Shout out to them. I want to get to this last game because I want us to have a longer conversation about the NFC playoffs here. Baker
sure.
Mayfield threw for 283 yards and 2 touchdowns as the surging Buccaneers won their 4th game in a row and beat the pretenders, the Jacksonville Jaguars here, 30-12. Baker Mayfield here, incredible pacing of this game as Tampa's won 4 games after they had lost 6 of 7. He converted 3 turnovers by Trevor Lawrence into touchdowns. They were up 30-0 at one point on the supposedly playoff-bound Jacksonville Jaguars here, who just lost their 4th game in a row with this loss. And this is incredible to see from Baker Mayfield. He had a perfect passer rating last week on the road against Green Bay at 158.3, and then helped them build a 20-0 halftime lead here against these Jacksonville Jaguars. Mike Evans got himself 7 receptions for 86 yards and 2 touchdowns. They were his 12th and 13 catches of the season here. And with New Orleans lost to the Rams on Thursday night, it left the Bucs alone atop the NFC South with 2 weeks left in the season. Then the Saints are coming into town next Sunday, which could pretty much lock down the division if the Buccaneers get the victory. So 2 things, Winston, we got to talk about. Are these Buccaneers for real and rounding into form and dangerous going into the playoffs? And are the Jaguars cooked coming out of this game with their 4th loss? What's your thoughts on this game?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
One, I don't think anybody realized how much of a linchpin having Christian Kirk was.
Yeah, right.
Because you know, I didn't even dawn on me, and I was like, I feel like I had more Jaguars players, and I was like, I had Christian Kirk, and he was one of the reasons. Like I sadly lost my only remaining playoff spot. Yesterday was close, man. I lost 108 to 115.
Oof.
The big issue there, because I looked at my bench, I was like, is there anything I could have done there? And I couldn't have. I have been riddled with injuries left and right. I lost Christian Cook, I lost Jamar Chase. I lost a chain early in the season, and he really hasn't been the same since he's come back. I think they're probably trying to make sure they don't potentially re-injure him. Just shit fucking me over left and right here. I think that is something that they're truly missing, because like the rest of the receiving core is okay. Like obviously you have Evan Ingram, and he did a great job, 10 receptions for 95 yards.
Yeah.
Calvin Ridley, 90 yards for 2 touchdowns. But I think you need that shit kind of spread out. You need to spread that field for them to be truly effective. When you know that there's only 2 people you need to worry about, you just put your focus on that. And then you're like, okay, make sure you got a solid linebacker that can handle a tight end. And again, you didn't really stop Ingram, but Ingram didn't score. You know. So like I just think the Jaguars again, you are who you are until you prove it otherwise.
Right.
God damn, like Trevor Lawrence has had some flashes of brilliance.
Yeah.
Then games like this happen. And I think the one thing that I'm seeing right now is, do we owe Baker Mayfield an apology?
I mean,
shit.
We may owe him an apology. The Buccaneers may owe him a massive contract after how he's played over the last 4 games in this season. Really, if he gets them into the playoffs and they win a game, or God forbid 2, and get into the NFC Championship game, which is not out of the realm of possibility when you're watching all these other teams kind of breaking down. Here comes the Bucs surging, reminding me of a New York Giants team. You just never know what can happen when you go into these playoffs if they're finding their rhythm. Yeah.
But like you're right. Mike Evans is a goddamn beast, a 2 touchdown day, 86 yards. Like he's a monster. And I think why he gets downplayed is because the Bucs have been filled with so much chaos for years that he's been there. So it's like the quarterbacks that were there, like Jameis Winston and all that beforehand. Then Brady shows up, and it's not even about Mike Evans anymore. It's just about Brady.
Yeah.
And then Brady's gone, and now it's like, okay, what are you going to do when you kind of bring it? Like Mike Evans has been consistently a monster.
Yeah.
The only team that kind of has his number is the Saints.
Okay.
And Marshawn Lattimore has a tendency to silence him.
Right.
But Lattimore's been playing injured. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
that may be a situation where Mike Evans could finally get his just due against the Saints
Next
and
week.
really propel the Bucks here, man.
I know it's going to be interesting. They have the Jacksonville Jaguars have the Panthers and the Titans to finish out their season, and the Panthers looked good over on Sunday. So could the Panthers pull off an upset here, especially if Trevor doesn't play? Because remember, they sat Trevor at the end of the game. They claimed it was some kind of head injury or arm injury, so he may be out for the next two games. For God's sake, so it could be interesting to see the Panthers upset the Jaguars, and then they got to play the Titans, and the Titans could be playing spoiler here because right now with the AFC South, it's Jacksonville, Indianapolis, and Houston all tied with each other. It may be a default team that wins the division. And by that, I mean like they just not that good, but they barely did enough just to win the division. I mean, Indianapolis is Jekyll and Hyde. You never know what you're going to get from week to week. Houston somehow won a game with David Mills being their quarterback. Is that right? No, David Mills. Who's the quarterback? They just lost to the Browns. Sorry about that. I always get them. Yeah, Davis Mills. He was their quarterback. Case Keenum came in to finish out the game. It still wasn't enough. They lost to these Browns, but the Texans could win their next two games against the Titans and then at the Colts to take the division. So this is going to be crazy at the end of the day. And Jacksonville may end up out of the division. Jacksonville could end up with a losing record at 8-9 if they lose the next two games, which would really be shocking considering what they were supposed to do this season.
Yeah. As more teams are getting eliminated, it's just interesting to see the landscape. I cannot believe that statistically the Bears could still make the playoffs.
The Bears are still in contention. The Bears are still in contention. With
my God, bro.
Well, let's take a look. Let's take a look because I want to make sure we have this conversation here before we take our next break and get into the rest of the NFL. But I want to take a look at these playoff situations here, and let me hear what you think, Winston. Let's go conference to conference. Let's start with the NFC, as I wanted to say here. You've got San Francisco, you've got Philadelphia, you've got Detroit, Tampa Bay, Dallas, Los Angeles. Right now, you have Seattle 8-7. That feels like that might happen. I don't know if I see anybody, even the Bears, sneaking up here and taking this from Seattle. But looking at this, it still feels like the 49ers, but the Eagles are stumbling. The Detroit Lions are stumbling a little bit defensively. The Buccaneers are coming up. The Cowboys, we don't know if they're struggling a little bit. The Rams are on a surge with their victory with Stafford there, and the Seahawks still squeaking by somehow at 8-7 with that victory last week against the Eagles. So, what is your assessment of the NFC coming out? Because I think it was 2 weeks ago you said that whoever wins the NFC is going to win the Super Bowl. Do you still feel that way now?
I didn't know that the Ravens were that deadly.
Yeah.
I haven't paid enough attention to their games to know that. So then, we'll see. They now become the only team out of the AFC. Like at any point in time, the Bills can turn it on, but I haven't seen consistent play out of that squad to consider that. The Chiefs are still the Chiefs for all of the shit talk that we have gone through.
Yeah.
If something happens and they're cussing each other out in that room and all of a sudden these receivers are using Stickum or whatever the fuck, they could maybe figure that out. But Baltimore is the only real team out of the AFC that you're like, fuck, man. Okay. You need to be ready for a fucking fight. But the NFC,
who's coming out of the NFC, Winston, right now as you're looking at it with 2 weeks left in the season? What would be your
who's making the playoffs or who's coming out and going to the Super Bowl?
Who's going to the Super Bowl of this collection of 7 teams right now?
I would still say the Niners.
You still? Okay.
My heart is saying Dallas, but that we know that hearts lie. You know what I'm saying? That's all emotion. You know what I'm saying? Like, because part of it too is then like where are you going? So the Cowboys hold that 5 spot. If we don't secure the division, then fine, we're going into Tampa Bay. I'm not worried about going into Tampa Bay and I know we just gave their flowers, but we did that last year to end Brady's career. I feel like we could do that again. Okay. The question then just becomes if we're the 5 and we're the lowest ranked seed left, then we have to play San Francisco. I don't want to fucking play San Francisco.
Oh shit.
I don't want to play San Francisco until I fucking have to. In which case, let's say it sticks where it is. So then 2 plays 7. I would need the Seahawks to beat the Eagles again and let the Seahawks deal with their division rival. And I gotta hope that they have the sauce. I don't think they have the sauce to beat San Francisco. I don't. I'm sorry, but I just don't. Maybe what it is somehow the Seahawks, it looks like they don't have the tiebreak over the Rams, so there's no way to do it unless there's a little bit of a skid there.
Yeah.
Let the Rams play them, because the Rams do play the Niners very well. McVay and Shanahan have this really interesting kind of back and forth, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you have the better team in San Francisco, you have the better defense in San Francisco, but you have the better quarterback in Stafford, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Not because Brock Purdy hasn't outplayed Stafford most of the season, he has, but I'll give the veteran like edge. I'll give the fact that one of them actually has a ring. You know what I'm saying? Like Stafford can make some costly turnovers, but he don't make the ones where what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? And so in those moments, I would trust Stafford over Purdy. But again, he's just older. Like, you know what I'm saying? He's so
Aaron Donald as well for the Rams. So you've got a strong defense being. If I was the Eagles fan, if I'm Eagles fans, I am begging them to win out, because if they end up in the 5th slot and have to go into Tampa Bay, I think they're going to get destroyed. That Eagles secondary against Mike Evans and Chris Godwin with Baker riding the high right now, and that defense just chomping at the bit. Good night, man. I think that's a recipe for danger for the Eagles if they go into the Buccaneers. I think Dallas could beat Tampa Bay in Tampa if that's how it plays out, but I don't think Philadelphia beats Tampa in Tampa Bay.
What I hate, and that's why we really need the division, man. I hate the idea that the Cowboys would not have a single home playoff game when it is clear. No. When it's clear, 15-1.
Yeah.
Home field, 15 straight or something like that. Whatever the fuck it is. It's something insane.
Yeah. It's pretty big.
That's whoa, dude. We gotta, oh my God. Ugh.
Well, talk to me about this. Let's go to the AFC here. We talk about the Ravens. They're 12-3. They've got the Dolphins coming up this weekend, so that's pretty much going to be. If they win it, they're the lock for number 1. The Chiefs, as we said, barely putting it together. The Jaguars still in the mix, even though they could fall away. The Browns, dude. Let me tell you something right now. I think that karma is sending the NFL gods are sending the Browns against the Ravens, either in the 2nd round or in the AFC Championship game. And that, to have Flacco playing his former team for a shot at the Super Bowl, there's such an insane karma behind that I kind of feel like that has to happen at some point here in the playoffs. But you've got the Bills behind them who are surging again all of a sudden. The Colts here at 8-7, and the Houston Texans still in the mix, and the Steelers and the Bengals are all in the mix, and fuck it, the Raiders are still in the mix. I think the Broncos are done, myself personally. So what do you see happening in the AFC? What do you see happening basically on who's making the final 2 slots here in the playoffs? And then who do you think is coming out of the AFC in the Super Bowl?
Let's see. I need to take a quick look at the Bills again, because they played the Chargers and barely won, right?
Yeah.
So I still don't have any faith in them. But as far as who's left, he's got the Patriots and the Dolphins. So one should be an easy win, even though they're both division rivals. But that New England game should be an easy win.
Yeah.
But the Dolphins worry me for the Bills. You dominated them earlier in the season, but it's in Miami. And Miami's going to be feeling themselves after beating the Cowboys. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. Plus, who doesn't want to also play spoiler?
Yeah.
To kick their division rival out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
Nothing would make the Dolphins happier than to be the reason the Bills don't make the playoffs.
Good point. That could be interesting, because the Bills are 9-6, and they've got They've got the Patriots and good point. It could be possible.
And it feels like, because the Dolphins are obviously have clinched a playoff berth.
Yeah.
So the Bills could still take the division. They need to win out. And the Dolphins would need to drop 2. I guess they have to lose their last 2. So, we'll see. But if I had to guess, I think Jacksonville completely shits the bed here. I think that the Texans, if Stroud is healthy, they win the division.
Yeah.
I think that the Browns will indeed make the playoffs. We don't have to worry about them.
Yeah.
In which case, I think that the last playoff spots will go to probably the Bills, and I actually have a little faith in the Bengals, man.
Okay.
The Bengals, I know they have a lot of tiebreaker shit working against them, but Browning has actually been playing pretty decent.
Yeah.
So I think that it is what it is. And, I'm just glad that it sounds like the Broncos will not make the playoffs. So then the bet's not on, because I said they had to make the playoffs first. Then they would get to the AFC Championship game, but they're not even going to make the playoffs. I don't think.
At this point, they're not making the playoffs. Whatever illusions we had over the last few weeks are now gone with the way they've played. I think I think Buffalo gets in for sure. I think Jacksonville shits the bed, which opens the door for either Texans or the Colts to take that division. But I think the Steelers are going to leapfrog into that 7th slot and lock it down by the end of the season. I just have a feel. Tomlin, they're already talking about extending him. They've already had the conversations according to numerous NFL reports, because what he's been able to do with this team, you look at 8-7, you're like, that's not something to crow about. But considering the quarterbacks they've had in charge of this team, the fact that they're 8-7 is pretty incredible. And Mason Rudolph just had himself a hell of a game. If he can keep it together over the next 2 games, who knows with these Steelers? They could maybe slide in there and take that and get in there. They've got a tough game against Seattle, and then a really tough game against the Ravens at the end here. So
and I totally 100% get that. I just don't. The Steelers, cool. Mason Rudolph, why hasn't he been the starter as is? Like it always feels like whoever comes in to replace somebody, they either have the best game of their career or the worst game of their career. There's no in between where they're like, no, they played well. Like Mason Rudolph had a phenomenal game. Yeah, but I don't trust him to continue to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
shall I show you Tommy DeVito? Shall I show you Tommy DeVito? Yeah, exactly.
Because, yes, Browning had 3 interceptions. That's not good. That's really fucking bad. But the dude still had 335 passing yards and a touchdown through the air. You know what I'm saying? So it's like he's not replacing Joe Burrow when Joe Burrow's healthy. No. But I agree that he may have just earned himself like potentially a starting spot on some of these other teams that really need a solid quarterback.
Yeah. And what have I told you all? How many times? Winston mentioned the slowdown. I've told you never celebrate too early. So seeing Jake Browning kissing his own ass last week and saying all the stuff he said, this is why you don't cut me. And now look what happened, 3 interceptions. So it's like those kinds of things are the things that wake you up to those realities there. All right, let's take a quick break and we'll jump into the rest of the NFL and get on out of here. Keep sending in your Streamlabs, please, as we go along here. We got a few more minutes left in the show. We'll be right back right after this. All right, Winston, we got a few more games to finish out our conversations here. Let's take a look at the rest of the NFL. Josh Allen, as we said, led the Bills to a victory here, throwing for 3 touchdowns over the Chargers, 24-22. Amari Cooper had a franchise record, 265 yards receiving off Joe Flacco, who is clearly drinking young baby blood to lead the Browns to a 36-22 victory over these Texans. Matt Stafford's Rams started off strong and then held off the Saints 30-22. Chad Ryland's 56-yard field goal sent the Patriots in over the Broncos 26-23. You can't lose to the Patriots and want to get in the playoffs. Mason Rudolph hit George Pickens, who had taken a lot of shit all week here for 2 long touchdowns, and the Steelers ended their 3-game skid and beat the brakes off of these Bengals 34-11. Geno Smith and the Seahawks improved their playoff chances and rallied to beat the Titans here. Taylor Heineke, former Commanders quarterback, lifted the Falcons to a 29-10 victory over the Colts. Jordan Love and the Packers survived a rally by the Panthers here to win 33-30. Justin Fields threw for a touchdown, ran for another score, leading the Bears past the Cardinals 27-16. And the Jets blew a massive lead against my Commanders, but were able to do just enough to beat us 30-28 on Greg Zuerlein's 40-yard field goal. So what do you want to say about
these
games, man?
Bro, it's clear that you wrote that last headline because it wasn't Jets blow the big, like you were like, it wasn't the Jets hold on to a victory over the Commanders. You said they blew a massive lead and barely the last few seconds of the game secure with a field goal, you stupid bitches. Yeah, man. I guess the ones that are the most interesting to me, is the Bills continue to give me no confidence. You have there is no reason that Eastman's stick should be sticking it to you like that, and you barely squeak that out when you're supposedly have an MVP candidate out of Josh Allen, man. Like that's not that ain't it. And then other than that, man, the Packers are interesting. Again, shouldn't let the Panthers become within striking distance there, but like Jordan Love has kind of proven he has that composure. He's not Aaron Rodgers, but like he's a solid quarterback. He looks like he can be the new face of the Packers. I just don't know. It's too early to tell if he has the sauce to get them a chip.
I think when it come out of these games is believing in the Browns even more. I mean, I picked up Joe Flacco a couple of weeks ago in fantasy, and I almost dropped him last week because I did end up playing. I ended up Jalen being okay, but then I decided just in case I'm going to keep this guy, and I didn't play him this week. But I mean, he had 26 points in fantasy, so I'm going to keep him on my roster as I go into the title game and decide if I'm going to start him or Jalen. I don't know who I'm going to start next week.
I mean, look, that tush push, man. He's getting 1 to 2 touchdowns a game. That's a solid 6 to 12 automatic points, despite his like sometimes great, sometimes good, sometimes mediocre, sometimes bad quarterback play. There's a reason he's ranked number 3 this year because of those goddamn tush pushes, bro.
But I also think the Rams here, I think the Rams and the Buccaneers are dangerous going into the NFC playoffs. If the Rams do enough to get in here, and certainly Matt Stafford's coming along, his players are coming back from injury. Kyron Williams has looked good, and Nakua, all these players are coming back too. And I think this is a good situation for Matt Stafford. Plus, the defense is kind of rounding into form as well. They had to hold off the Saints here, because Saints are what they are. And I think this is an interesting situation to watch these Rams and watch these Browns and watch these Buccaneers as we go into the playoffs. Yeah, I agree with you, Josh Allen. Definitely. As I said, my Steelers, who knows? Could be a flash in the pan. Mason Rudolph next week could throw 4 interceptions. You have no idea here. The Seahawks, who I thought had no shot to make the playoffs again, might just sneak in here. And I am too fly Cam make me eat my words because I had no faith in that team. And Jordan Love and the Packers, I don't know what you get. And this all leads back to what Tom Brady mentioned a few weeks ago. I kind of scoffed at it, but now maybe there's some credibility here that there are so many teams just stuck in this middle of the pack in both sides of the NFL here, Winston, that it is a little bit like you just have no idea who's going to win from week to week when you look at the teams that are playing in the center area here of the standings on both sides, both the Eastern Conference, both the AFC and the NFC. So, I don't know what to believe when I'm watching these games, man.
I genuinely have nothing. I you know what I'm saying? It's just, I think it makes it at least exciting as a football fan.
True.
And it's frustrating as a fantasy football player because now there's not a lot of consistencies between the injuries, between the inconsistent play. Those games where it's like Etienne has been solid for me this whole time. That's another reason why I ended up losing. He had 5 fucking points. And I'm Cook, after having that explosive game out of the Cowboys, got TD vulture twice. One of them by Josh Allen's bitch ass. So it's like, I
know. This is the time where that's why I always say with fantasy, you have to be lucky to get into the final. You just have to be lucky. I was down 10 points going into the final game last night. If McCaffrey had gotten injured in the first drive, I'd have lost the matchup. Yeah.
The sheer number of Brock Purdy owners that have been cursing his name. Oh my God. That was funny.
That's true.
But yeah.
Let's wrap up with this. We had a bunch of NBA games on Christmas. Not sure if you saw anything, but Luca, man, Luca, what's your feelings here about how Luca is doing this season? I saw a ridiculous podcast with Gilbert Arenas and other people, and they were saying that Luca isn't the best player on the Mavericks. They're still giving it to Kyrie Irving, and I have no idea what the fuck these guys are talking about. What's your thoughts on Luca, man? Where do you fall on this, man?
That's really silly. Obviously, they are former professional players, so there's
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
But it's like Luca has already passed 10K points.
Yeah.
He had a 50-point game. He's the 10 game points. He's the 7th fastest player to ever get to 10,000 points.
Yeah.
The 7th fastest. He literally makes the Suns his regular bitch. Like, I need to find this goddamn photo because it's my favorite photo. Yeah, it's the one of all right, hold on, let me share it real quick. It's the one where it was game 7 in the playoffs. I want to say it was the semi, so before the Western Conference Finals. And Devin Booker was talking that good noise, you know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden, that game 7, we're up by like 40, and there's Luka like, "Hey, big boy, is you still feeling good about it?" Like,
oh, he hates.
He's like, it's so fucking funny.
That's
so like,
yeah.
I think it's funny to me for people to say that. It doesn't mean that Kyrie isn't a monster.
Sure.
But like, if I'm doing a draft right now, I'm taking Luka over Kyrie, both because he's younger, but also because Luka can just go cook. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Luka's been playing, for fuck's sake. You know? Yeah.
Now he does need to do better on the defensive side of the ball.
Sure.
I get it. Like, that's a different conversation, but he's not Harden bad. You know what I'm saying? He's not Steph Curry bad. Steph Curry is a notoriously bad defender.
Yeah.
So like, he can do more, but you know, part of that is just going to come to the fact that Luka came into the league in shape this year, and that definitely you could tell the difference. I need him to come into even better shape next year. And I think, you know, we'll get somewhere with it, you know.
I was reading in the Ringer. Ringer did a great job talking about Luka, and like he's hired a nutritionist, he hired a physical therapist. Like, he is focused. The great players understand that when they're in the prime, or they're about to enter into their prime, getting a nutritionist, getting a therapist, getting someone who is completely in charge of their conditioning, and them adhering to that conditioning and working on their game is what elevates them to the next level. Kobe was one of the first people who started doing it. LeBron right after. And so you saw that this is a thing. So seeing Luka do it makes so much sense, because one of the criticisms with Luka has been his physical ability to hold up and whatever. So I love this. 50 points against these Suns. Incredible victory for them here. But there were a lot of upsets throughout the day. No one had the Knicks beating the Bucks, for God's sakes.
No.
Or the Heat beating the Sixers without Jimmy Butler, which was pretty surprising. The Lakers, to me, 40 points from Anthony Davis, and they still couldn't beat these Celtics. LeBron barely did anything in that game. And then the Nuggets silenced the Warriors yet again.
Wait, MJ started what? Oh, the diet and nutrition stuff? Sure. I'll give you that. But I think the one thing that everybody universally agrees is that while MJ is certainly the better version of Kobe, for example, is the one that when people talk about the work ethic and specifically the workout ethic, he is the GOAT of that. Yeah. Let's be really clear.
Terminated blood platelet surgery, for God's sake. Yeah.
Right. Don't get me wrong. Jordan did all sorts of stuff and was in incredible shape and all that. I'm not taking that from Jordan. For sure. But in the same way that we talk about Jordan being like the GOAT of basketball, Kobe was the GOAT of working out and staying in shape and being in top. Yes, Michael may have started that, just like Kobe's play is very similar to Michael's play. Yeah. But if we're just talking about that crazy workout warrior type shit, Kobe, I feel like, is unmatched on that.
There's a difference. And guys, I'm old enough I lived through Jordan. Jordan started lifting in order to be bigger to confront the Detroit Pistons. He did not start lifting so he could necessarily ascend to the next level with nutrition, all that. That's different. Kobe understood what Jordan did and went to the next level with it, which is what you see all these players doing.
Because I would make the argument that Kobe could not be in the conversation with Jordan if he wasn't that person.
Exactly.
There is innate abilities that Jordan had that were fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that Kobe doesn't have them too. He's also such a talented athlete. And we might be talking about him in a completely different light if he had played soccer. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
You know what I'm saying? Like, because he was a big soccer player. And so there's talks that he may have done something like that.
Right.
But I'm just saying that, like, everybody has their title. Michael Jordan is in the same way that Steph Curry is the GOAT shooter. Yeah. Michael Jordan is just the GOAT overall. Kobe is the workout GOAT, and it paid dividends.
Yeah, because you didn't see Kobe staying out late, gambling, smoking cigars, drinking liquor. That's what Jordan was doing. Kobe didn't do that shit. That's the difference there, okay? Jordan started lifting, just like Tiger Woods changed golf by lifting, but it was Kobe who came in with nutrition and the lifting, changed everything, and adhered to it 24/7. Tom Brady doing the same thing in the NFL, right? Tom Brady has kind of changed the approach of quarterbacks with his conditioning and his nutrition. That's what the great ones do, and I think that's
JMB. I would actually say it the other way around. I know that Goku trains very. He just asked me, would I say that Jordan is Vegeta and Kobe is Goku? I would actually flip it, and the only reason that I would say that is because, because Kobe worked out so goddamn much, and it's not that Goku doesn't train a lot. He does. But you would make the argument that he kind of has a little bit more potential. Maybe not out of the gate, but he had more, like Goku has more potential than Vegeta. And you would say that about Jordan had more potential than Kobe. But Vegeta keeps up with Goku by working out as much as he does.
Yeah. I love Salvation coming in because, you know, what's a show without an age joke saying, did Rocha just admit he was in his 40s during Jordan's era? Bitch, I'd be in my 70s right now. And if I was in my 70s, I look fucking good for 70s. Why don't you send me a picture of what you look like, young man? Let me see who looks better. Who looks younger?
Hold on, Yoka. Brown don't ever turn down, baby. You doing just fine. You doing just fine.
I knew James Jordan. I knew his dad. Peggy Gubbins up in here. What's up, Peggy G? She said, lifelong Bulls fan here. MJ went and played 36 holes while Kobe put up 10,000 shots. Not to say Mike didn't practice or was unfocused. It's just
exactly.
Absolutely right.
Exactly. If MJ had Kobe's workout ethic, there would never even be a debate about whether or not LeBron is in the conversation or Kareem or anybody. It's already not. You can't argue with the fact that MJ is the GOAT. I would still make the argument.
100%.
But Jesus Christ, in the same way we've said that about Shaq, if Shaq had Kobe's workout ethic, there is actually a conversation that maybe Shaq would have surpassed Michael Jordan because of how dominant he was. He just liked to party too fucking much and like being the Diesel, like being Superman. He didn't, you know what I'm saying? That's the only, God, if Shaq had Kobe's workout ethic, the things we would be saying. Holy shit.
He'd be the greatest center ever. If he had Kobe's workout ethic, he would have become the greatest center ever.
He would have been the greatest basketball player. I stand because with his not working out ass, he was so fucking dominant. But imagine if he had the kind of like, nah, I'm gonna go lift. Nah, I'm about to run. My endurance about to be up. Nah, I'm gonna train so hard. I'm gonna learn to shoot fucking free throws. Yeah. Can you imagine Shaq shooting fucking free throws, Rocha? Holy shit, bro.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been amazing. He'd be unstoppable. Because I got to start saving these TikTok clips and playing them during our show. I was watching this, I don't know what show it was on, but someone was saying that Shaq isn't even in the top 5 of centers ever.
It was Mad Dog, and it was the stupidest thing I've ever. That was the stupidest shit I've ever heard, bro. It was so dumb.
Duncan's a fucking power forward, man.
And Tim Duncan made damn sure people knew he wasn't a fucking center. He said, no, I'm a power forward. Like,
yeah. Please. It's ridiculous, man. So anyway, all right, let's get out of here. Let me see if I got any more Streamlabs. We do not. All right. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us. We appreciate it madly. Hope you all had a wonderful holiday, however you chose to spend it. You know, some people don't like to celebrate Christmas. Totally respect that. However you chose to spend yesterday, I hope you enjoyed it, whether with friends and family or hanging out doing your own thing. We love you madly. We appreciate you all hanging out with us. Please remember to subscribe to the channel down below. Hit that bell button so you see when we're dropping the content. Leave comments down below as well. And Winston, another fun show with you, brother, man. Thank you for taking the time. Where can they find you, brother?
You can find me at the Swaggy Blurred on all the platforms, man. Please go over to my YouTube channel if you haven't already and go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I'm trying to get the goal right now is to get that to 5K. We just passed 2,000, which is pretty cool. And I'm back doing Breakfast AM News, so please go over to TikTok, Instagram, all that, and follow that. But I am putting those on YouTube a couple days later. But the fun thing that I'm actually going to do with Breakfast AM News across these platforms, I started doing that show like in the middle of the strike with a broken leg and all that kind of stuff. So there's a bunch of stories in the top end of the year that I didn't get to. There was a chunk of time the last few months once I started being able to walk again where I wasn't doing it. So this week is going to be a bunch of like jokes for stories I didn't get to cover throughout the year. So they may not be relevant to right now, but like something that happened in January that was kind of, you know what I'm saying? Like that'll all come into play. So definitely go check those out, man. And then Capes and Cows will be doing our end of the year ranking for like superhero comic book TV shows and movies. So definitely check out Capes and Cows this week as well.
That's awesome, brother, man. Absolutely. And speaking of superhero movies, if you're a Geek Buddies fan, we are going live today at 5 p.m. PT for Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom spoiler review. Trust me, you don't want to miss that. We're gonna have some fun at 5 p.m. PT.
I still haven't seen it, man. I don't know if I want to at this point.
Oh man, yeah, it's an interesting experience. The good thing is it's 2 hours. You're in and you're out, man. You're in and you're out.
All right.
That's a good thing.
All right.
As we were saying, just join us for that. But until next week, y'all take care of yourselves. Be well. Enjoy the football. And we'll talk to you next week with another brand new episode here of Game Time. Peace until then.